That can of San Marzano tomatoes sitting in your pantry right now might be the most convincing food scam in your entire kitchen. And unlike most food fraud, this one isn't hiding. The canned tomato aisle is one of the most misleading places in the entire grocery store. Labels throw around words like Italian peeled, vine-ripened, and fire-roasted, the way cheap hotels describe themselves as cozy and charming. The front of the can tells you a story. The back tells you what's actually inside. Today we're going to decode the 4 types of fake canned tomatoes filling those shelves. The ones that are watering down your sauce, smuggling in sugar and seasonings you didn't ask for, or charging you a premium for a name they have no right to use. And then we'll show you the real ones worth buying. Subscribe and let's get into it. If there's one villain in the canned tomato aisle that every home cook should know by name, this is it. This is the can that plasters San Marzano in big, confident letters across the front, Italian flag colors, a sketch of Mount Vesuvius in the background, maybe the word certified, and charges you a meaningful premium based on all of that. Then you flip it over, and somewhere in the fine print, you find the words product of USA or grown domestically. The brand name is San Marzano, but that the tomatoes are American Romas with an Italian passport they didn't earn. The San Marzano brand white label cans are the most brazen version of this. The brand itself is called San Marzano, which is technically legal, but the effect is exactly what the packaging is designed to create. You see the name, you assume the origin, and you pay accordingly for something that has no connection to the actual San Marzano region in Italy. Then there's Cento, which is trickier because Cento is a legitimate company with legitimate products. Their bright yellow cans that say San Marzano and certified are what most American home cooks grab when a recipe calls for San Marzano tomatoes. But the cans most commonly stocked on US grocery shelves are not DOP San Marzano. They're Italian plum tomatoes, sometimes from San Marzano type seeds, that do not carry the official protected designation of origin seal, even though the front screams certified. A real DOP San Marzano can carries the full Italian consortium name Pomodoro San Marzano, Delagro Sarnese Nocerino DOP, the red and yellow EU seal, and a specific producer/consortium identifier. Most of what's labeled San Marzano in America has none of that. Italian producers estimate that only a single-digit percentage of San Marzano tomatoes sold in the US are actually certified DOP, single digits, out of hundreds of millions of cans a year. The math literally doesn't work. There aren't enough tomatoes grown in that region to fill the number of cans using the name. The tomatoes inside these cans might be perfectly decent. Some of them taste fine. The problem isn't always the flavor. It's that you're paying a premium for a story the label has no right to tell. And you'd never know unless you knew exactly what to look for on the back. The cheat code. A real DOP San Marzano can says Pomodoro San Marzano Delagro Sarnese Nocerino DOP and carries the EU red and yellow seal. If you don't see that, you're buying a tomato in an Italian costume. The next fake type doesn't pretend to be a San Marzano. It just leans so hard on Italian imagery that your brain fills in the prestige without the label technically lying. This is the Italian-style industrial pack, and it's everywhere. You know the look. The can has an Italian flag worked into the design. The font is a rustic serif that implies the recipe was handwritten somewhere in Campania. The words Italian peeled or imported from Italy dominate the front. Maybe there's a sun-drenched tomato field in the background. Your brain reads premium, traditional, European, and your hand reaches for it. Cento's regular Italian peeled tomatoes, not their San Marzano line, are a good example. Real Italian tomatoes, packed in Italy, perfectly usable product, but the label does a lot of work implying something special when what's inside is a standard industrial pack of commodity plum tomatoes in juice. Not bad, not what the packaging suggests. Store brands take this even further. Great value, Italian style, stewed tomatoes and signature select. Italian style, stewed tomatoes are American-grown tomatoes cut up and stewed with green pepper, onion, sugar, salt, and a spice blend someone decided to call Italian herbs. There is nothing Italian about what's in those cans except the adjective on the front. The word Italian on a tomato product is doing the same job that artisan does on a bag of potato chips. It's a vibe, not a fact. The practical problem shows up in your cooking. When you reach for a can of Italian peeled, expecting a neutral tomato base, and it's actually seasoned with herbs and sugar you didn't plan for, your sauce doesn't taste wrong exactly. It just tastes like it came from a can. That slightly processed, slightly sweet, slightly herby background note that you can't quite explain. That's the label working against you. The rule here is simple. A genuinely good canned tomato can tell you specifically what it is. It'll give you a variety, a region, a producer name, or at minimum, a clean ingredient list. A can that leads with flags and adjectives but goes vague about what's actually inside is trading on implication. And implication doesn't make sauce. This fake type is the one that quietly ruins the most home cooking because it doesn't look fake at all. It looks like a tomato. It's shelved with the tomatoes. The word tomato is the biggest thing on the label. But what's inside crossed the line from ingredient to finished product a long time ago. This is the ready-made sauce masquerading as a pantry staple. Hunt's traditional pasta sauce and contadina Roma-style tomato sauce are the store-brand pizza sauce, sitting 2 cans down from the crushed tomatoes with a nearly identical label. On the front, you see tomatoes and basil, maybe the word Roma, and the natural assumption is that you're buying a basic tomato base. Flip it over, tomato concentrate, water, sugar, salt, soybean oil, dehydrated onion, garlic powder, spices, and natural flavors. This is a sauce that was built inside the can before it ever reached your kitchen. When you cook with a real canned tomato, whole peeled, crushed, basic diced, you're starting with a neutral raw ingredient, and you're in charge from that point forward. You control the salt, you control the garlic, you decide if it goes sweet or acidic or rich or light. The tomato is your raw material and you're the cook. When you grab one of these by mistake, you've already lost that control before you turned on the burner. The sugar is in there whether you want it or not. The oil is changing the texture of your sauce whether you planned for it or not. The dehydrated onion and Italian seasoning are giving every dish a specific flavor signature, that unmistakable, this came from a jar quality that turns up in soups and chilies and braises even when you buried the can under half a dozen other ingredients. Every home cook who's ever made a homemade pasta sauce and wondered why it tasted like ragu has probably met this fake type. They bought something that looked like a tomato ingredient, used it like a tomato, and ended up with something that tasted like it was poured from a jar. Because in a meaningful sense, it was. There is nothing wrong with buying pasta sauce if you want pasta sauce. Some of them are genuinely good. The problem is buying pasta sauce when you thought you were buying tomatoes. One is a choice, the other is a costume doing its job perfectly. The last fake type is the one that ruins more pasta sauces than any other. And unlike the others, it's not even trying to deceive you about origin or ingredients. It's just been engineered to survive shipping, stacking, and a 2-year shelf life. And nobody thought to tell you that engineering would follow those tomatoes straight into your pot. This is chemically hardened, diced tomatoes. And the culprit has a name: calcium chloride. Most mainstream diced tomatoes like Hunt's diced tomatoes, Great Value diced tomatoes, and store brands across every chain contain calcium chloride as a firming agent. It's not there for flavor, and it's not there for you. It's there because those perfect little cubes need to survive a factory floor, a retort process, a warehouse, a truck, and 6 months on a shelf without turning to mush. So manufacturers treat the tomatoes with a compound that locks the pectin in their cell walls and keeps them structurally intact through the whole journey. The result is a tomato cube that is, to put it plainly, unwilling to cook. You simmer it for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and those little cubes are still sitting there, intact, slightly rubbery, floating in your sauce like tiny protest signs. The tomato flavor is cooking out into the liquid just fine. The actual tomato pieces simply refuse to break down and join the party. There are times when that's useful, in chili, in chunky soups, in a stew where you want defined pieces. Firm diced tomatoes do exactly what you want. But in a pasta sauce, a shakshuka, a curry base, or a braised dish where you want the tomatoes to melt into a cohesive, silky background, calcium chloride is working directly against you, and the can never mentioned it was going to do that. If you've ever followed a recipe carefully, simmered the sauce as long as it said to, and still ended up with a chunky, slightly watery result when you expected something smooth and integrated, this is why. The can didn't lie about being diced tomatoes. It just didn't tell you they were engineered not to behave like fresh ones. The fix is straightforward. For sauces, skip diced and buy whole peeled or crushed. Whole peeled tomatoes can be hand crushed into exactly the texture you want, and they'll cook down into a genuine sauce because nothing is stopping them. Save the diced for when you actually want chunks and the calcium chloride is working for you instead of against you. Before we get to the real ones, here's the cheat code for the grocery store aisle. Flip the can over, 3 things to check. No DOP seal. That San Marzano name means nothing. Sugar and herbs in the ingredient list, that can is already cooking for you. Calcium chloride in the diced tomatoes, those cubes aren't going anywhere. That's it. Subscribe, and now let's talk about the cans worth buying. Once you know what to look for, a genuine DOP San Marzano can is unmistakable. The full protected designation name is on the label, Pomodoro San Marzano, Delagro Sarnese Nocerino DOP. There's a red and yellow EU seal. There's a consortium stamp with a specific lot number. No brand does this unless the can has actually earned it, because the certification is audited and revocable. Matti San Marzano DOP whole peeled tomatoes is one of the most accessible examples. Matti is a large Italian producer with a wide product line, and they're notably honest about which products carry DOP status and which don't. The label doesn't exaggerate. If you're buying Matti and it says DOP, it's DOP. Specialty importers like Gustiamo carry smaller production options. Gustarosso, La Valle, Strianese, they are grown in the designated valley under the same strict consortium standards. Harder to find in a standard grocery run, but worth knowing about. What you actually get from the real thing is a tomato with a specific balance of sweetness and acidity that comes from the volcanic soil those plants grow in. The flesh is dense and low water. The skin is thin. The tomato breaks down into a velvety sauce without turning watery, and the flavor has a floral quality that cheap plum tomatoes don't replicate no matter how long you simmer them. Are they strictly necessary for a good sauce? No. Great cooks make great sauce with all kinds of tomatoes. But if you're going to pay the premium, this is the only version that's actually tied to what the name means. Everything else is just wearing the shirt. Some of the best canned tomatoes in the country don't claim to be anything other than exactly what they are, and that honesty is itself a mark of quality. Matti's non-DOP line, their whole-peeled tomatoes and their polpa, which is a finely chopped tomato, is a good example. When Matti isn't selling you certified DOP product, the label says so plainly. You're getting high-quality Italian tomatoes, well-packed, with no fake credentials attached. Then there's Bianco di Napoli, which has become a cult item among American chefs and serious home cooks for straightforward reasons. These are organic California tomatoes grown in the Central Valley, packed with a bit of basil, and started in collaboration with Chris Bianco, widely considered to make some of the best pizza in America. Bianco di Napoli makes no claims about Italian origin or San Marzano heritage. In blind taste tests run by Serious Eats and Food and Wine, they consistently rank at the top of the field, sometimes above certified DOP San Marzano, depending on the application. That's the point. What you want in a canned tomato isn't a story. It's a tomato that tastes like a tomato, packed by someone who is paying attention. These products deliver that without asking you to navigate certification seals or spot the difference between certified in large English letters and an actual EUDOP seal. For most weeknight cooking, the pasta, chili, a braise, or soup, you don't need DOP certification or a Chef Cult California brand. You just need a reliable, honest, whole-peeled tomato that does its job and gets out of the way. Muir Glen Organic whole-peeled tomatoes are the standard bearer here. USDA Organic, grown in California, packed with tomatoes, tomato juice, sea salt, and citric acid. That's the complete ingredient list. Consumer tests and recipe developers land on Muir Glen consistently as the best widely available everyday option. Good natural sweetness, solid acidity, and a texture that breaks down cleanly into sauce because nothing in the can is stopping it from doing so. 365 by Whole Foods Market. Organic whole-peeled tomatoes play in the same lane. Affordable, widely stocked, no fake San Marzano cosplay, just a reliable organic tomato that behaves honestly in a pot. The principle these brands share is that the label tells you exactly what's in the can and nothing more. Tomatoes, juice, salt, maybe basil. No sugar, no seasoning blend, no mystery spices, no firming agents, and no flags doing work that the tomatoes themselves can't do. You can build extraordinary sauce with a can of Muir Glen. You cannot always say that about the fake Rolex sitting 2 shelves over at twice the price. Canned tomatoes are the foundation of more home cooking than almost any other single ingredient. Pasta, pizza, soup, stew, chili, and so on. That's exactly why the marketing around them got so aggressive. If a company can get you to pay $3 more per can by putting a famous name and a flag on the front, and most people never flip it over, that's an enormously profitable story to tell at scale. The front of the can is the pitch. The back is the truth. If it says San Marzano but has no DOP seal, it's not San Marzano in any meaningful sense. If it says Italian style but is full of seasonings and sugar you didn't choose, it's already cooking for you. If it's diced and calcium chloride is on the list, those cubes are staying put. And if the ingredient list reads like a pasta sauce, that's what you bought. Decide if that's what you wanted before you open it. The rule is simpler than it sounds. A good canned tomato can tell you exactly what it is. A variety, an origin, a short and honest ingredient list. It doesn't need flags, mythology, or certifications it can't back up. It just needs to taste like a tomato and behave like one in your pot. Subscribe and let us know what is your go-to can of tomatoes. Thanks for watching.